Okay, so I know you haven't made a response, and I know this is a quick turnaround, even though, anyway, I just wanted to um, read to you for stress relief, final stress relief. I don't really know if you're stressed for finals, but in case you are, plus I don't, anyway, finals. Okay, so I'm going to read to you an excerpt from John Steinbeck's Travels with Charlie. I'm not very far yet, and I haven't read it since I think winter break, so don't really know what's going on. But I mean, it's not really a story. It's just like him going across. It's a really great. I love John Steinbeck. Anyway, I have always heard that Maine people. Oh, this is page 50. I have always heard that Maine people are rather taciturn, but for this candidate for Mount Rushmore to point twice in an afternoon was to be unbearably talkative. He swung his chin in a small arc in the direction I had been traveling. If the afternoon had not been advancing, I would have tried for another word from him, even if doomed to failure. "Thank you," I said, and sounded to myself as though I rattled on forever. First there was a very high iron bridge, as high-arched as a rainbow, and after a bit, a low stone bridge, built in the shape of an S-curve, and I was on Deer Isle. My written directions said that I must take every road branch that turned right, and the word "every" was underlined. I climbed a hill, and turned right into pine woods on a smaller road, and turned right on a very narrow road, and turned right again on wheel tracks on pine needles. It is so easy once you have been over it. I couldn't believe I would find the place, but in 100 yards there was the great old house of Miss Eleanor Brace, and there she was to welcome me. I let Charlie out, and suddenly an angry streak of gray burned across the clearing in the pines and bucketed into the house. That was George. He didn't welcome me, and he particularly didn't welcome Charlie. I never did rightly see George, but his sulking presence was everywhere. For George is an old gray cat who has accumulated a hatred of people and things so intense that even hidden upstairs he communicates his prayer that you will go away. If the bomb should fall and wipe out every living thing except Miss Brace, George would be happy. That's the way he would design a world if it were up to him, and he would never know that Charlie's interest in him was purely courteous. If he did, he would be hurt in his misanthropy. Misanthropy. For Charlie has no interest in cats whatever, even for chasing purposes. We didn't give George any trouble because for 2 nights we stayed in Rocinante, his truck. But I am told that when guests sleep in the house, George goes into the pine woods and watches from afar, grumbling his dissatisfaction and pouring out his dislike. Miss Brace admits that for the purposes of a cat, whatever they are, George is worthless. He isn't good company, he is not sympathetic, and he has little aesthetic value. "Perhaps he catches mice and rats," I suggested helpfully. "Never," said Miss Brace. "Wouldn't think of it. And do you want to know something? George is a girl." I had to restrain Charlie because the unseen presence of George was everywhere. In a more enlightened day, when witches and familiars were better understood, George would have found his, or rather her, end in a bonfire, because if ever there was a familiar, an envoy of the devil, a consorter with evil spirits, George is it. One doesn't have to be sensitive to feel the strangeness of Deer Isle, and if people who have been going there for many years cannot describe it, what can I do after 2 days? It is an island. I should have stopped about George. George is it. Anyway, so that's that. Hope it was a good study break. What comes next is a little clip that I took back in January when I'm on one of those treadmills that they have in one of the places in the buildings so you can like study and exercise while you study. So yeah, I don't want to talk because I didn't want people to think I was weird. So instead I just did what I did, which you'll see. Okay, so I don't want to be loud. I forgot to say that I love you and can't wait to see you again. Bye.